Hey everyone, this is Scott from Forgot to Grow Up. Welcome to our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7, Episode 6 Thoughts video. In this episode, we see half the team is captured and the other half is trying to save the day. So we left off last episode where they just finished blowing up the Project Insight rocket, giving away the position of the Zephyr to the Chromicons, and Chromicons take advantage of that, overriding the S.H.I.E.L.D. systems that they had upgraded in order to shoot a couple missiles at Zephyr 1. Well, the team is also trying to rescue, part of the team is trying to rescue Mac's parents, that being Mac and Yo-Yo, and while Coulson and May are captured, because it's a really funny thing, anytime you see new Coulson in handcuffs, it's kind of just optional. So yeah, this episode was fun. Oh, the other part we also had going on in this episode was Daisy and Sosa being captured by, what's his name, Malik's kid, and Nathaniel? Yes, Nathaniel, who's trying to steal Daisy's powers. So yeah, this episode was fun because everyone's, we're all over the place in this episode, but not too much. So we see, like I said, so Daisy and Sosa, they've been captured. Not a whole lot happens with them, but we do see this connection start to form between those two characters, which was nice. Them kind of, Sosa being impressed by Daisy being able to just kind of keep fighting even after she's had like half her blood drained and had her spinal fluid drained and it's got a bunch of drugs in her. She still managed to, keep the fight up and grab a little, some kind of broken piece of glass or something, some kind of sharp thing that Sosa was able to use to help them escape. So I really enjoyed seeing that part, seeing them I didn't enjoy seeing obviously Daisy having her blood and stuff taken, but that was an enjoyable scene or enjoyable part to see those two characters bond. We see at the end of the episode that Sosa kind of continues to stay or decides to continue on with the team and traveling through time, and I think that's partly because this experience he went through with Daisy in this one, seeing what she's the fight she has in her and how she's willing to keep fighting for what's right, and I think that kind of inspired him. Maybe there's a little romance thing going there too. I don't know. It's hard to say sometimes. Sometimes you overread into these things with superhero stuff. But yeah, so that was an interesting part. Another interesting part was seeing Coulson and May trying to convince the general that that they're telling the truth in all of this, and that they're not, they're sabotaging it in order to save S.H.I.E.L.D. from Hydra and all this fun stuff. So that was really interesting. And then we learned a little bit more about the Chromicons' latest strategy, which is to make pretty much their own Coulsons. They're copying people and then copying their memories as well, so that the Chromicons are able to fit in a lot better, just much like Coulson is. So that was really interesting. It is funny that it was funny that we realized in this, or made me realize, especially in this episode, that the only reason May has no feelings this season is that she can be a Chromicon detector, because that's all she did this episode. She just kept feeling everybody, or everyone kept like putting their hands on her shoulder, which is just like, hey, Chromicons, maybe you should learn. But I guess it's because we've killed every Chromicon that has touched her. So that being said, I thought it was an interesting kind of little thing, because I thought it was an interesting thing they introduced of May not having these emotions. I thought it was going to be a little more, exploring that, but it does seem just like a device for them to detect who's a Chromicon and who's not in an episode. That it could be more to it, but that's all I'm seeing so far. But it's still fun. I do enjoy that as kind of like a little bit, especially with May, who's normally emotionless, and then having these, connections when she's, with people, she actually feels their feelings, but then when a Chromicon feels her, she doesn't feel anything, and so that's just a fun little gag, or not gag, but a little device they used in order to, because they could do anything. They could have it be like a watch that beeps when somebody goes by, but why not have it May kind of sensing whether they have feelings or not. So I thought that was an interesting thing and a little realization I made in this one. Another fun part with Coulson and May in this one was we actually see Coulson go into this virtual space and talk to the Chromicon predictor, whose name I'm now forgetting. But that was just a fun little bit. I like that he calls her not only a predictor but a poet, and that was a little bit fun. We learned a little bit more about her and how she's kind of just, she's so far in the future that she can just see all the possible paths that could lead to different futures, and so she's just observing the time stream, which we've seen throughout different parts of the MCU now, especially with the introduction in Endgame, but we get to different little concepts, especially with this season traveling. So obviously traveling through time. So I like that they dive more into that time stream thing, which we did learn about in Endgame, or how time streams work in this one. So which I think they're really trying to like push. Well, maybe not using this particular episode to push this idea into the main MCU, but kind of latching on to that same idea of, we have these time strings and they can branch off, and different moments can branch off into different tree of branches of the futures and stuff like that. So I just thought that was an interesting thing, and it was just fun to see those two kind of sparring with words, and Coulson giving us a speech, which I always love. I love me a Coulson speech. We got his with the line he says, "Dying is my superpower," and I'm just like, oh, that's such a badass line, and it's kind of true. This whole show started off with him coming back from the dead after dying in the first Avengers movie, and so I think it's very fitting that we're ending off this series with probably him dying and coming back a few times, because a spoiler alert for this episode, he does die at the end. He sacrifices himself to blow up the Chromacon time ship and to take a bunch of them with him, but as May says, he'll come back. And he always manages to. They even have a moment between Coulson and May at some point during this episode where, she says to him, "I can't grieve you again. I've done it too many times. I'm sick and tired of it. You're back, and I'm supposed to grieve you again or something." What? No. And Coulson's just like, thank you for being May. So I enjoyed that little connection we saw between those two. And then again, this little fun little bit where they're just like, yeah, you know what? We're going to kill Coulson and bring him back a bunch of times, especially with this newest mechanism of him being a Chromacon. There's no reason why they can't re-download him or print another body. Or I'm sure there are some reasons why they couldn't. But that being said, it makes it a little easier for him to come back. I do kind of hope it is some kind of a little bit more of a fun way where maybe he hopped back into the virtual space or something along those lines, left a little tag of himself in the virtual space, and then he's going to hop in a Chromacon hunter body and eventually get his face back somehow, because that's the funny thing about the Chromacons. They have to steal a face, so in order for Coulson to get his face back, wouldn't he have to steal it from his dead corpse? I'm not sure how that works. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting little bit. And the last little thing about this episode, which is a big focus, obviously, we saw Mac and Yo-Yo saving Mac's parents. That first little scene when they encounter each other, which I think it's supposed to do this, made me cringe so hard. It's just like, Mac, how do you always forget how time works? How do you always forget how time travel works, and how you are an adult man hugging these people who had never met you before? And his parents react very fittingly, which is, big random stranger comes into a room and hugs your wife. I'm like, hey man, what are you doing? And so I thought that was just a little bit of a funny thing, but it made me cringe. I was like, no, Mac, no, remember time. And even Yo-Yo was just like, he's just happy that you're safe. Just trying to play it off, but even she was just like, yeah, Mac, you're weird, you gotta remember about time. So I thought that was fun, but then it also kind of leads into the fact that this episode doesn't end, again, spoiler alert for the episode, not in the best way for Mac and his parents, because we learn, like I said already, the Chromacons have the ability to take not only people's faces now, but their personalities and memories, and able to, blend in a lot more. And we learn at the end, again, thanks to May, the Chromacon detector, that his parents actually were replaced by Chromacons a while ago, before this escape, as kind of like sleeper agents, I guess, to make their way onto this effort and, stop the SHIELD team. So that was obviously a big emotional arc for Mac's character. Again, I went right through it with him because, I was cringing when he met them, but, I was like, I get it. I get why he's so excited to see them, why he forgets. And you see some of these bonding moments between him and his parents. And then at the end, May's just like, hey, Chromacon detector, I detected Chromacon. You should check that, Mac. And Mac's like, no, I don't want to. And then he does, and he's like, fuck. Throws him out the back of the Quinjet. And then he has his own emotional moment at the end where he storms out of the Zephyr to drive 100 meters away. That part I found a little interesting. I get why it was done in a sense. They wanted him to storm away, but then at the same time be not so far away from the Zephyr that you couldn't have it in the background of the ending shot, which, again, spoiler for the end of the episode, Deke and Mac end up getting left behind as the Zephyr pretty much immediately jumps right after they had landed. So that's where we leave off the episode. So I'd be curious to find out, where Mac and Deke have ended up timeline-wise, where the team's going to end up next, how big a gap there's going to be in between them. It would be interesting if they're just like a day gap and it's like, oh, yeah, they're going to get back there tomorrow or something. So, I'm curious to see. Obviously, I'm curious for the rest of the season, but I am curious to see where we go next and where the rest of the season goes. I'm very excited, but I'm also, we're coming to the end and we're not going to have any more Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. soon. So, it's a bittersweet feeling, but I'm excited to see how they decide to end off the series. But be sure to let me know in the comments below what you thought about this latest episode, what you're thinking of the season so far. Thanks again for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and have a good one.